Welcome to WholeCEO with Lisa G. I'm the best-selling author of The Boss Weight Loss. I'm bringing you the top tips to be unstoppable. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to actually pull up a chair with today's top experts in mindset, weight loss, business, and more. Learn our top tips so that you can have more energy, be fit and resilient, feel unstoppable, unshakable, and unbreakable. Today's guest brings an amazing presence and passion to everything she does. Best-selling author, founder, CEO who operate a multi-million-dollar company, expert in the topic of human potential. She's committed to sharing her success principles and has interviewed best-selling authors like Jack Canfield, Mel Robbins, to billionaires like Martin Franklin and Jeff Hoffman. And in so doing, she's cracked the code, addressing the root cause of what stops us from living to our full potential. I'd love to welcome today Mia Hewett. Welcome to the show.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much, Lisa, for having me.
I'm so excited too. I love all the stuff that you're up to in the world. So let's jump right in.
Sure.
What would you say is the secret to being unapologetically you?
Yeah, that's such a great one. Because to be unapologetically you, you have to actually know what you're talking about. Like, doesn't it feel like that? Like oftentimes, if you were to ask someone, like, what really stops you, or where do you get triggered, or what is it, where are your limiting beliefs? Most of the time people are like, I don't really know, or I don't think I have any.
Right.
So, right? Like, and the reason this happens to all of us is because the truth is we actually don't experience a limiting belief in the moment we're having them.
Right. They're subconscious.
So we think like everywhere we're having a limiting belief is really where we are actually being triggered.
Right.
Isn't that fascinating?
That's not true. It's more like the trigger is bringing up the limiting belief.
Yes, that's what's really happening. It's the opposite of what people think. So anytime you get confused, or you go into overwhelm, or you feel like, wanting to blame the person who's saying this, whatever is showing up that is actually causing the trigger or the resistance is the limiting belief.
I love it.
The problem is that when we don't recognize it, because it's like, oh, this doesn't feel so good, when we're not aware of like, whoa, this is what this feels like, then we don't understand that that's actually what we were looking for. Because we think it's a fact. We think that's just the way life is. When in truth, the way to live unapologetically you is you have to be willing. You just have to be willing to take that resistance and go deeper and find out what's behind it, where the limiting belief lies.
I love that. I love that we're so aligned in that belief, because to me, it's like once you've done the work, then you realize that when something triggers you, if it's still bothering you later on, it's really about something in your past that's been triggered. And that's where the work begins, is just sitting with it, thinking, what are you feeling? And then trying to get to the thing behind the thing. Isn't that correct?
Yes. And one of the fastest way we teach this, we teach an exact methodology. We call it it's like shortened for AIM, but it's aligned intelligence method. And we have an exact methodology and a framework where you can take anything that you've been struggling with and be able to actually access a higher level of consciousness by being able to sorting out the truth from the lie. It's kind of like this. I know you'll get this since you've been on the East Coast. It's like if we were to be in New York City at ground level,
right?
The view from ground level at the base of the Empire State Building is completely different than if we were to go to the top of the Empire State Building, what the view would look like there.
Right. So true.
It's the exact same thing when we use this framework. We actually stop being triggered, we are able to come up and access a higher level of consciousness such that we can actually see the truth separate it from the lie or the meaning that we were making it, whatever the resistance was that was causing it to be triggered, be able to process our emotions through it, and then be able to take effective actions and follow all the way through to get the result. Does that make sense? Like there is actually a process. Wouldn't you? I would have loved for somebody to have told me that a long time ago, but we invented it because we didn't find it. But that is actually how it works. Does that make sense, Lisa?
It makes sense to me,
Okay.
but I just want to make it a little more clear for our audience, just to spell it out 100%. So everybody is listening,
Absolutely.
because I feel like you guys should be taking notes here. So AIM stands for what exactly?
It's our methodology. It's called aligned intelligence. That's what it's called, an aligned intelligence method.
Right.
And what we're doing in a nutshell. And I'm just going to draw it because we're on video, but it helps me just to like give it clarity.
Okay.
Is what we're really doing is we're bypassing our ego that got triggered, right?
Exactly.
Or our protective self, whatever you want to label that as, right? Our protective self. What we're doing is we're bypassing this, and then we're going into a space in between, from the ego, in between our higher self or our intuitive self. We call it the aligned self, but it's just your intuitive, like your intuition, your intuitive self, right? Or some people like to call it their authentic self or their true nature, whatever you want to word,
like,
their soul.
Like you're being in
That'll
your
work.
soul rather than your head.
That's exactly right. So how we actually access it is it's actually in the space in between where we access real power is going to come from inside of a no thing. It's no thing. It will feel like neutrality where there is no thing, right? It's going to feel exactly like this, like a neutral feeling place. And how we do it is recognizing, first of all, that that's actually where potential really lies. Like most people will say, well, you know, how do I live my full potential? It's like, well, where is potential? Like, how do you actually access that to begin with? The truth is, the way to access full potential is you have to let go of the mind, be able to observe. So you're going to look down on the situation from your own situation happening, as if you were at the top of the Empire State Building, looking down on the situation. You're going to, from that neutrality of observing from nothing, now you ask yourself these questions. What am I making it mean?
Right.
That's going to be the first one.
Right.
What am I making? Whatever's triggering me, what am I making it mean? The second question you're going to ask yourself is, what's the truth about that meaning or the lie? So you want to separate the truth from the lie, right? From neutrality, like as a neutral observer, as like you're not in the situation, you're looked down on it. Right. Then you want to then ask yourself, what do I now, from seeing the truth and seeing the lie, what do I need to accept and then forgive? Right? Because to move forward into choice, right? In order to really release the resistance, release the attachment, release the story, release whatever the limiting belief is, we have to actually move into choice. And so once you ask yourself the question, what do I have to accept and then forgive? Now you will feel a weight come off of you. Wow. When the weight comes off, like you will feel a letting go of resistance. Now you have access to your real power, which is where your full potential lies. Now you have access to choice. Now from the choice, now you want to take from choosing newly, you want to now take the next aligned action that will create your result.
Well, I can see why you call that aligned. It makes so much sense to be able to make better decisions instead of being reactive, to being responsive in making a less hot-headed decision.
Totally. It's like night and day difference. And when we make the decisions from alignment, it always works out for us, like every single time, right? Because success, if you feel it like this, Lisa, it's like success is very much like any successful recipe, any successful result has a set you know this in fitness better than I would, but like, you know this in fitness, right? Like every successful result or outcome has a certain set of priorities. Like in the alphabet, ABC has to come before XYZ. Well, it's the same in business and life, right? When we understand the recipe and then we do the ingredients in the right order and we don't change the order of the ingredients and we don't leave an ingredient out. Like if we were going to bake a cake and we never baked a cake before, we cannot leave out sugar, right?
Exactly.
It just doesn't become a cake. And you know that from fitness. And I know that from living in your alignment and living in your full potential. You cannot leave out an ingredient of one of those steps.
Right.
And as long as you don't leave anything out and you do it in the right order, it will give you your successful result every single time.
Okay. Well, thank you for breaking that down so thoroughly. I want to know another question for you. What is the invisible trap that we've been stuck in without even knowing it?
Oh gosh, this is such a good one. Okay, so I'm going to show you. So what it is that we actually resolve that that is like amazing, which is what I looked for like my whole life. The thing that I wanted to solve, I finally have solved this for myself and so many hundreds of people. So here it is. So when we're born, Lisa, we are born whole, perfect, and complete. Right? Like not one baby is born with a self-esteem issue, not one. So then what happened to us? What happens, if this is our lifeline, what happened to us is in the very early stages of life, very early, like 1 year old, 2 years old, very common, 3 years old, very young, not the later part, very early. So before that experience happened, we totally trusted ourselves, we trusted others, and we trusted life. And then something happened. We had an experience that inside of that experience, it caused an emotional trauma. Where what I mean by this, we're talking about the split. What I'm showing you here is the actual split between when this happened, it shocked you, confused you, blindsided you. You didn't even know that it could happen. And in that moment, you said some version of this. There must be for this to happen to me, there must be something wrong with me. So who I am must be not enough. So therefore that split, and I know split is too strong of a word, but it's the best feeling that I can give someone, where you stopped being your authentic self and you started to become someone you were not. This is the ego, right? So it's the divide between the true self and the ego. And then from that day forward, every negative experience you will have will be the same damn thing over and over again, the same pattern, same trauma firing every single time. It'll be a different situation, different person, different event, same exact feelings until we heal it. It takes us 8 weeks to actually heal this.
Wow, that's pretty fast to heal not good enough from childhood.
Super fast. The reason is like every recipe has a successful order. It used to take me, when I first started, it used to take me 6 months, but in the years I've refined this to be really, really streamlined, faster and faster. So it takes us 8 weeks, and basically it's a return to the wholeness that was here. So you don't really become, I like to say it this way. Most people think that success is about becoming something. And I would like you to consider that it truly is actually an unbecoming of everything that you're not, so that you can be who you were always meant to be in the first place. And so here's the answer to your original question. So most people keep looking for this trap and in the mind. The problem is, and the reason why people self-sabotage is because it's actually, what to do logically, but you just can't feel like you can do it emotionally. So the self-sabotaging trap that people run is they get caught between their logical side of themselves, of what they know, what they can do, and their emotional side. And when we heal these pieces, what happens is, because you can't think greater than how you feel. So when we heal the emotional part of ourselves, we actually come back into alignment within ourselves, and therefore we unleash our potential. Does that make sense?
Oh, that makes total sense.
Yeah, yeah.
We have to get to the childhood wounds and get rid of feeling not good enough, you guys. How important is that?
Yeah.
I
It's so
love
vital.
that. I think it's so important. All right. I want to ask you another question.
Sure.
I'm asking for a friend, not for me, but what really happens when you worry about your future?
No worries. So in asking that question, it's such a great question. What happens when we worry about our future without realizing it? I want you to consider, let me back up 1 second. The truth is, every single human being was born with an imagination, right? Nobody had to go to imagination school. Isn't that a great thing?
Right.
And the second thing that you were born with is you were naturally born with feelings. Nobody had to learn how to feel. Even those that have felt like they've suppressed their emotions, they're still having feelings. They just have told themselves from that original trauma to stop feeling. Right. So the reason why they're struggling inside of it, but everybody really knows how to feel. They just don't know what to do with those feelings. Okay. We've never been taught how to process our emotions. So when we know how to imagine, when we know that our emotions are actually our internal GPS, they're actually for us. They're showing us at every moment whether the thought that we are thinking is either in alignment for what we want or out of alignment, or whether the thought we are thinking needs to be processed to then uncover the blind spot, which is a limiting belief or a story or attachment. But either way, it's all for us. So our emotions are actually for us. And when we understand that, those two pieces, then it's easy to take action from alignment and really create our result. So what happens to us when we worry about our future is we are actually imagining the unwanted and creating it into our reality without ever realizing we were the ones creating it.
Right. Sort of like the law of attraction. You're bringing about what you don't want when you're worrying about what you don't want.
Exactly. It's like prayer for the unwanted. It's exactly right. It's just because it's not our fault. Like we're not taught that, how do we really work as a human being? Like how do we work? How do we get our mind, our emotions, and our actions all in alignment so that we can be our greatest power? When we're not taught how that actually works, and then we're not taught about how does life work? Like how does the universal law of, cause and effect really work? Right. And until we understand how that law works, on how things really work, and then how we work, it feels like we're just winging it. Right.
Oh, yeah.
It's like we're flying blind. So yeah, it's like having those pieces together, everything then starts to make sense. And we can really understand and fully utilize our full potential by knowing how the best way to create, our results is to create our own reality.
I love that. I love how wise you are, Mia Hewett. Where can our audience find more of your amazing stuff?
Awesome. They can come check me out. My website is miahewett.com, and Hewett is spelled Hewett. A lot of times people have a hard time finding me with the ITT, but it's ETT. Come check me out. You can download the first 3 chapters of my best-selling book for free to see if it's like really meant for you, if it calls to you. And then they can always join our challenge that we help them actually live the book.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm going to be going to the website, you guys. I hope you're all going to the website. Thank you for being an awesome guest, Mia Hewett.
Thank you so much, Lisa, for having me on.
Thanks for coming to WholeCEO with Lisa G. After over 20 years helping people lose weight and get fit, I'm so excited to announce that I found the missing link with my coaching. Message me if you want to learn how to look better, feel better, and go faster with a master. Lisa G at lisagfit.com.